Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome back to part 3 of our As Many As series. And if you were here for part 2, you kind of know where we are right now. But if you weren't, go back and catch that video real quick. Now, this card that we're putting together is inspired from this image that we found. I keep pointing to this one because I think it's the easiest one to see. So it's inspired by that. And I'm gonna walk you through a little bit of how we did this, but I did a full live video showing you how I prepped this. So we're going to link that video in the description too. So you can see that. If there's any confusion, it'll clear everything up. But here's the deal. So using that image that we found, we created ourselves instructions. Okay, so here's my instructions. And then I went and did all my cuts. So let me show you what I've got over here. So this is our card base, and I'm using this orange for a couple of reasons, and you'll hear this in that other video. I'll probably say a lot of things twice, but I have a lot of this in my stash that I'm trying to use up, these kind of colors, and it works perfect with this paper pack. So that's why I chose this orange. This piece ended up being 7 by 5.5. And when I scored it, I put it in my scoreboard this way and scored at 4.25 because that's a standard score for me, a standard A2 score. And because my cardstock is solid, it doesn't matter. And that way I can set my card up in this direction or even this direction or even up like that. But we're going to be using it like this because that's how our inspiration is. Okay. So I did the math and found that I had like 20 cut aparts instead of what I thought I had originally. I had missed a few. So I went ahead and made my card bases for that. Then these are the cut aparts we're going to use. They're the 3x4s, and I've pulled all of them from the pack, and I want to show you how I've organized them. Okay. So that card that we're making has this piece here that is 3 3/4 by 4 tall. That is so we can nest one of our cut aparts on the front like this and have this flip over the card. So you can see it kind of will go like that. This extra bit gets turned under. Okay. So here's what I did. I went ahead and cut for myself all of these pieces in 3 3/4 by 4. And I just gathered these from the 6x6 or from the cardstock, wherever I could get it. That's where I got these guys. Then you have to pay attention to something. Okay. Your cut aparts won't work on every single sheet. I want to try to make this make sense for you, but let me show you a couple of them. So let's just say these 2 sheets are some that I chose. And let's say I wanted to put this cut apart here. To me, that doesn't work. I don't like those 2 reds together. I'm good with it here. I think that's kind of cute and it really pops, but I don't like those 2 reds together. Okay. So what I did was when I got my pieces cut, I evaluated front and back. And basically all I did was this. You see, this is the front and the back here. I just laid them like this. I went through my cut aparts and I went, this one works here. This one will work here. This one will work here. And I just laid them into a stack. Okay. These 2 are the ones I want working over here. And you really want to do that because if you just assemble your card with one of these pieces facing up, pieces like this, you're going to run into issues because there's other pieces that have a lot of green. So just kind of pay attention. In the video, the live video we share with you, I literally do that process so you can watch it right there. One other cut for these is this guy. It's 4 by 5.25. It's a solid piece for the inside. So we are almost ready to assemble. The only thing I need to do is run through my cut aparts and make their score marks. I did not do that before. I'm going to lay these out so I know what belongs to what because I've already got them all stacked up. And then I'm going to run through and do all my scoring real quick. And I'll show you how that works. So I'm just going to use my trimmer and we'll start with this first pile. And I'm going to put this guy in and using the scoring blade, not the cutting blade, I'm going to put it at 1/2 inch here. And then I'm just going to score. And then that little bit will turn back like so. And our little piece will live on it. And that will be the piece that goes on our card. Okay. So I'm going to run through, do all those little 1/2 inch scores, and then we'll assemble. It would have been easier to score when I cut these, except I was choosing front and back. So where my score mark is sort of matters because if your page has a picture or a pattern that has an orientation, your score mark either goes here or here. So it's best to go ahead and get everything lined up before you score them anyway. Get everything matched up, and then your score mark will be where it should be. All right, sorry this pile's right here, but it's pretty full on my desk, so that's where they have to live. But we're going to assemble one real quick. So here is our card base, okay? And this guy and this guy are going to stack on top of each other. And I can pop this up if I want to. I could pop this little guy up on foam, which might be cute. But when I'm doing these kind of as many as situations, I don't typically do that. I try not to use all that much foam when I'm making, lots and lots of cards. So I just kind of, these are like cards I'm going to send out they're not keepsake cards. They're not make a fuss cards. They're not something where I've really spent a lot of time focusing on the card. They're really more, I just want somebody to know I'm thinking about them on a special day. So this is not going to be one I spend a lot of my supplies on, if that makes sense. So we've got that little guy folded back like that. And then he is going to float in the middle here, and he's going to be 1/8 of an inch away. But I want to show you something. If you don't want to have to guess where your 1/8 of an inch is, because that can be a little difficult, glue him to this piece and then put it all down together. So what you'll do is float this guy like this, so you get him in the middle where you like him. And then I'm going to turn this over and apply my glue here. And this will hide our cut apart flap behind our piece. And now when we lay it down, we're just centering that piece and everything will be nice and neat where it goes. Okay. So now I will apply glue back here. I'm going to center that little guy on our piece. We'll lift this up, lay this down, and there we go. Now, this does need another piece, but I have a plan. So I'm trying to use up every bit of this cardstock, right? And I know I want to put some decorator cardstock back here, but I don't want to cut up the last little bit I've got or what I've got left to just do that right now. I think I can wait and do a lot with scraps here. So I'm going to wait to put any here. And this could be a mistake. I want to warn you, because if you're doing this at home, you don't want to make this mistake. The reason it could be is because if you don't have any other cardstock in your stash that can coordinate, you may run out of cardstock. So if you're just using this pack, go ahead and cut these strips. But I've got so much cardstock in my stash that if I have to use a plaid or a stripe or even a pretty solid from my stash, I can do that. So I'm not going to do that just yet, but I will eventually. All right, so that's how my card is going to look, just like this. And I have a bunch to assemble, so I'm going to go assemble those off camera and we'll get right back together. I want to tell you guys something. I think the best investment is this glass mat. I had glue everywhere. I put a little bit, this is how I clean my glass mat. I put a little bit of hand sanitizer on it and I wipe it off, and it is literally the greatest thing. And all that glue is gone. Okay. I say that because I went through years and years of those mats that are just, I don't know if they're rubber or whatever the regular mats are. And you know this, guys. I've had to go through so many because glue just would stay. And this is the greatest thing ever. Okay. Enough about that. That's not the point. Here we go. Check them out. These guys are all waiting on their one final piece. They're all put together. Let me count these. So there's 20 cards here. We got 20. How honest can I be with you? I feel like I can be pretty honest with you. As I was doing these, I started to think about this. This is not my favorite style of card making. This is not for me. I do not enjoy making the same thing assembly line style. It is not me. This is why I can't do craft fairs. This is why I don't make and sell things. I just cannot do the same thing over and over again. It also falls over into my my quilting world, because you have to make so many of very similar squares of quilt blocks and then put them together. And the repetition, it is not me. I know there are people who love the repetition. Shannon loves repetition, and that's so cool. This is just another example of how we're all different. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not telling you I don't enjoy doing these videos for you guys. I do, but there's a time and a place for this. And right now, me trying to get birthday cards made for the year of 2025 is that place. Or maybe when you're doing invitations or things like that. I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, don't stress if you're like, why don't I enjoy doing those cards Maymay makes? I get it. I really like making one-off cards. They're my most fun. They feel like little pieces of art. And when I finish, I just sit there and look at it and just enjoy it. But not my favorite thing. However, I just did 20 cards, so I can feel good about that, right? That's good to feel about. Tell me in the comments how you feel. Do you love repetition, or are you like, no, 1 or 2, and that's it for me? All right, it's time to design the next card, and you guys have been anxiously awaiting, I know, because you told me so. You're like, I love to watch the design process. So let's go to this one. So we've bitten off a good chunk because that was 20 cards. All right. So that was the biggest cut apart we have, was that one. What I want to do is make this little card next, or something similar. It won't be exact because I've got to change the measurements, but I like this focal point, this larger focal point image here. And we've got we got 3 4x4 cards. We have 1 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then we have some smaller ones than that. So we're going to make 4 cards in this style. So let me grab those cut aparts. So here they are. I'm also going to get an A2 card base. When we got our We Are cinch stack cutter, we went ahead and made a bunch of A2 card bases with a stack of cardstock. So I had some of these ready. Let me fold this so we can see the center. They've already been scored. And I'm just going to crease this down. So based on the style that we're inspired by, this is kind of how this would land. It would be over here in this corner, like so. And then I would do something else here. And I'm noticing that it's not the same size here as the top and bottom is. So I'm wondering if it might be smarter, instead of doing square, 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 squares like this, maybe I do squares across the top and bottom and a strip along the side for this one. And if I look at this guy, it's even bigger because remember, these are 4x4. So I think it might be fun if I cut this guy down as small as I can into a square and then fill in with squares around it. So I only have to make 4 of these, so I don't mind spending a little time on them. Plus, I like them not to be the same process over and over again. So let me go ahead first and cut our larger cut aparts down and see what we're working with. So you might want to see how I do that. This can be a little bit difficult because maybe you're not exactly sure where your cut line is, or you're not sure exactly what to cut down to. I like to lay my piece into my trimmer and then pull this guy over, and my cut line lays right inside of here, and I can kind of see through. You can kind of see through too. I can kind of see through. Oh, you know what? Let's use that new rotary trimmer because I'll show you why I think it's going to come in handy. Remember, I showed you in the live last night that this arm pulls away and this edge is the actual slice mark. Let's just see how this changes things. All right, so I know that's my cut mark right here. Oh, that's a lot clearer and easier to see. And I'm seeing my little image is good. So let's cut that away. I mean, I could literally see where I was cutting that. That was really nice. So see where this is going to come in handy, this kind of separate clear opening. So let's lay this one in. And again, I know where the cut is because this line is it. So I'm going to pull that about like that. And I'm cutting this one down right to the image because I don't really need any extra. I really need to get rid of as much as I can to make it small enough for the card. So let's do this one. I'm getting it right to it. Slicing that down. Let's do this side as well. We'll see what size we ended up with. Let's close that down. So I feel like I'm a little heavy over here because this isn't exactly centered. So I'm going to come back and cut some off. And I don't really mind if I lose some of that tail because I like when images kind of flow off the page. So let's trim a little more down. Matter of fact, let's see if we can get it to 3 inches. Let's see what happens if I go there. So I've got that at 3 inches. I'm going to lay the blade down and look. So you see where I'll be cutting through. Before I do that, to make this look the same on both sides, I'm going to cut through some of these images because I want these to hang off the page so that when I cut them hanging off the page on the other side, it looks like we meant to do that. So let's go back here and see where we're at. And I'm going to be brave and I'm going to make a slice. Just be brave, you guys. Just be brave. So you see how that's hanging off both sides? That's good. Let's see if we can get it to 3 by 3 because I think we can. Yeah, easily. So let's lay this down. I'm going to cut through that image a little bit. So we've got image hanging off the page. And now let's cut this guy down to 3. So we're going to get a little 3 by 3 square. And that'll be perfect on the front of our card. And we can build around that. Perfect. What are the chances I can get this guy to 3 by 3? Let's just see. He is currently, I'm going to line him up here. He is 3 1/4. So I would only need to take about 1/8 of an inch off. So let's go like this. And let's see if we can get him down to 3 by 3. Got him cut down. He's not exactly perfect. I'm not going to stress about it. He'll be cute and the card will be so patterned that it'll go away. The recipient is not going to be sad about it. I promise. All right. So we just have these two left. I know I can't get this to 3 by 3, but let's see what we can get it down to. So I was able to get him down to 3 3/8 all the way around. So that's good. We got one more to trim down. This one's not going to go very far. I'm thinking I might cut it all the way to the edge and then cut those little pieces out and let it be a shape. Let's do that. I think that's a good idea. Now, you might be thinking, Maymay, I really don't need another trimmer. And I get that. You may not need one, but I got to be honest, I really like this lineup feature. So this arm will lock open, and I really like knowing exactly where this blade goes. I'm able to lay this right where I want to cut it on that clear line. Probably hard for you to see on camera, but when you get it home, you'll be able to see how easy it is to line things up. I really like that. I wish this was spring-loaded. Maybe that's a bad idea, but like if this just kind of stayed easier, that would be cool, but it still works really well. All right, fussy cut. It's the first time we've had to fussy cut. No stress, right? So I'm just going to come right here, cut around. All right, there we go. What size did we get him down to? He is now 3.5 by 3.5. Very good. So we can build around those. All right, I'm going to want a little piece to show around here like a square. I think I'm going to want a piece around all of them. So let's go ahead and cut those. Now, I don't want it to really have a big border because I'm trying not to add a lot of bulk to these guys. So I'm not going to cut 1/4 of an inch so that I end up with 1/8 all the way around. I just want like 1/16 of an inch to hang around. So if this guy is 3.5, if I cut a square to go behind him that is 3 5/8 by 3 5/8, I'll be able to get that. So let me find the cardstock I want to use. See that? I really like how that pops, but I don't have to have too much extra out here. And by doing this, we end up with 3 5/8 square, and we'll build around him on the card. I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to do that same process for the rest of these guys. Check them out, all layered up on that bright yellow. I really like that. This one I might have done with an orange, but I had that scrap of cardstock I wanted to use, so that's why I did it. All right, let's get to work one at a time. Let's start with You Smashed It. Here's my card base. I want him to live like this, okay? So we need to see what kind of space we're working with around him. So I'm using the center feature on my ruler, and I've turned my card base sideways, and I've just laid this where I've got 2 3/4 at one side and 2 3/4 at the other side. Now I'm going to center this guy up. I just want to see where center is here. Okay, so having him here, I have the same amount top and bottom, which gives me 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 1 1/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 1/8. So that's what I'm working with up here. 1 1/8 would be tight if I did 1-inch squares. Let's do a 1-inch square and see what it looks like. So digging into some of these scrap pieces that I have and my square punch. This is why I love having these guys. This guy is a 1 inch, and I can just punch this out and see how this is going to go. And I won't have to cut a whole bunch of 1-inch squares because I don't like doing that. That's a lot of work. So let's use these two to help me design. So let's put this guy here. And I probably will pencil mark where this guy goes just to make sure I have him in the right spot. And let's see what 1 inch looks like up here. That's going to be okay, but it's going to be tight. But I'm actually okay with it being tight. So if I do these 1-inch squares here, and then I need to lay them out this way and this way, I don't believe I can get it here. I can't. And I still think the single strip here might look good to have the squares top and bottom and then the single strip. So I'm going to lay this out like that, and I'm going to see how this looks, and we will go from there. So I think I've decided a change, and that is this. Instead of doing all the squares, I want to lay another piece in the background and then kind of have this have another border, and then I'm just going to use strips. I think it'll still look cool to have the strips here. And I have a lot of strips left over from different cuts. So some of these, I may have to trim them down a little bit, but like that strip will work right there and things like that. So I'm going to try to make the most of that. And that's another tip for you when you're doing this. If you're like, wait a minute, I got a lot of this. How can I use this? So we're not cutting this all down into more small pieces. Sometimes this is the way to go. So here's what I'm going to do. This is an extra piece I just cut. I'm going to glue this down straight to the back. And remember, we were just being inspired by the cards that we saw, and we're still being inspired because I really liked that focal point being to the left of the card. I would typically like, this is why I like it. I may center or over here person. I really like the left, so that's why it inspired me. Let me find the center here because I want to try to get this lined up neat because I think that it will matter in the end product. I'm going to mark that center so I can see it. I can always erase that. And I'm going to find the center of this little guy. So now when I place this down, I'll know I'm in the center and I won't mess myself up for my strips that are going later. Some of you are saying this is too much work, but I'm going to be honest with you. I enjoy this more than just copy, paste, copy, paste. It's just me, I guess. If you have one of these Altenew stamp erasers, they work so well on pencil marks and they just make it disappear. All right, now we can cut some little strips. I want this strip to only be the length of this centerpiece. So it's going to be 3 1/8. And I don't want it to fill the spot. I want a little bit of a mat. So I'm going to do 5/8 by 3 1/8. Let's do this little piece here. Here's a little trick for you. If you're cutting these little strips and you can't get them to sit still in your trimmer, let's do it this way. I'll do 5/8 on this side. I usually do that on the other side, like float it over. But we'll do 5/8 here, okay? And I'm going to stick this down with just a little piece of yellow tape. And then when I make my slice, it will hold still because I'm just taking that tiny piece off. Then I can lift this up and I can remove that, or I can leave it for this next part because I'm going to cut this down to 3 1/8. And I can let it hold that little piece. Then I can remove the tape. I'm going to put that tape right here so I can use it over and over again. You can stick it on your work surface or what have you. All right, this little piece will live here. I'm just going to lay it here so I can check it. See, that's going to be really cute to give me all that movement. I really like that. Let's glue that down. Oh, look, we could even do that side, but I like the blue side. Okay, now let's go across the top. So we're going to measure here. So that's 1 inch. That's cool. 1 by 4. So I'm going to trim that down 1/8 of an inch smaller. But you know what I could do right here? Look at this. I have this little cut from that piece. I could always do a small piece here and a small piece here to give me even more interest if I wanted to. So if this guy here was 1 inch, let's cut this down 1/8 of an inch shorter than 1 inch, which is 7/8, by the way. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this guy could live up here, and I could cut another piece to go down here and then do another strip here to give me even more movement. Let's do that. So here's another one of these pieces. So I'll cut it down that same size. Watch my little cheat if you don't want to use your trimmer on this tiny piece. Look how quickly I can just lay it down here and just mimic it. So now I've got it, and we'll get a cool look on the card, and we didn't have to use our trimmer to get those tiny pieces. Right now you're like, Maymay, this is too much work. I enjoy this. I cannot wait to see this card finished. And I know the others aren't going to be exactly the same. And it's super fun for me. This is just the way I like to create. I think it's neat to see one at a time to be like, oh, that's how that turned out. Okay. And it'll make sense when I get that other strip going. So let's pick what we're going to use there. I don't love that one. I want something a little more bold. I don't want solid. So I dug through the strips and I found these. And I think this will be cute. And look how much texture or movement we get on this card by adding that orange background to be able to see the little matte edges. That's super cute. I like that. What's on the back of these? I didn't even look. This green, so we could mix them up if we wanted to. We could do the solid colors. Let's look at which way I like it. I might like the solid colors better. I'm going to go with it. Wow, does this feel like Partridge Family, right? It kind of does. All right, let's glue these down. This is kind of where you see why I love paper packs. Everything coordinates. I didn't have to pick colors and make sure I got all the right hues and tones and things like that. It all just works, and I think that's great. I love this card. Okay, I'm going to take my other 3 cut aparts. I'm going to do it just like I did here, and we'll see what we get. You guys, these were fun, and they turned out cute. This is the one you saw me do. Then there's this one, and I want to show you on this one, I just went like this and did strips across the top. But the reason I did is because I had that word strip that would fit right there, and I thought it was cute with that. So there's that one. And then look at this one. This time I went all the way up on this side and then half and half. And because this said make a wish, I did little birthday strips there. And then on this one, I did the same thing and did the little celebrate ones there. These were super fun. I'll be honest. This did not feel like assembly line because everything was different. I had to measure every little section. So isn't that funny? Like, I guarantee you some of you are going to be like, I don't want to measure every little section. Just give me all the measurements at once. But what I loved about this, and this is a good challenge for us, let me find something that'll make sense with it. Here's one. Let's say you have these little pieces just left, right? Mat them, put them in the middle of your card, and then measure around and just piece like a little calico paper piecing, and you're going to get this cute little look, and you'll just build out from here. That's super cute. I really like that. And we have that opportunity because we have more cards to make, and I have so many strips. Strips are getting used a lot in this. Many of these strips you see are the piece of the 6x6. Let me show you one like that. Still have the hole, up at the top. And, we had about this much left and I was able to cut away and use them. Matter of fact, I think I saw this one. Nope, I didn't. I didn't use the green one, but I did use this somewhere. I remember cutting it down. Oh, there it is. It's like I remember using it. So see, that came from like that little piece right there. So what a great way to use up the little tiny bits. I love that. Okay. You're going to be like, we only did 2 cards today. We did. But for me, off camera, I've done a lot of work and it's taken a lot of time. So here's the 20 we started with that still need their strip here. Okay. And then this is the 4 we did using these guys right here. Tell me in the comments, what's your favorite style? A bunch with the same measurements and easy, just go, 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 or kind of this, what would this be like, bespoke, because each one of these was different. I think it's super fun either way, but this is my favorite. I'm glad to have this 20, but this is more my style. Okay, we're nowhere near done. We still have, let's get our little piece out, our little notes, I mean. So we have now completed all of these guys, and I think I'll just run a line through them just so I can see what's completed. So I've done those. And then I have now done these guys and this guy. So this way you can also see what we're working with. So in our next video, we'll pick up here and we'll start working on these other ones. And we might be able to finish those because there's not many of each one. And these 4x6s really take up a lot of the card in and of themselves. So I'll see you in our next video. And what I'll do is next week when I'm starting to prep for these guys, I'll do another live so you can watch me do some prep work. And it'll probably help you kind of know how we're going to plan these guys out. All right, you guys, I hope you've enjoyed this so far in our As Many As. We are at 24 cards and we're at 2. Let me show you these. We're at 2 books. Here's one. Here's the other. I have not put my tabs in yet. I'm kind of waiting on my tabs because I have another idea. So I'm kind of waiting. But this is the other little book. I've got it covered and ready to go. So that's where we are with 1 paper pack so far. I don't think that's bad. All right. Be sure to give us a subscribe, like this video, give it a thumbs up. And until next time, bye now.